once and for all. I think the odds are fair. 2 on 2. Right, Jill.
Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're giving you our 10 predictions for Resident Evil 5 Remake.
I should have killed you years ago. Chris.
Your mistake. It's over, Wesker!
Over. I'm just getting started.
Capcom has reached an interesting crossroads in remaking the older Resident Evil games. What to do about the divisive Resident Evil 5? Though we don't think all of our predictions will come true, we do think some of these decisions will come to fruition as a means to correct RE5, fit it in with the modern games, and keep fans happy. And here's your spoiler warning for RE4 Remake, as we will be talking about the game's ending. What do you think will happen to RE5 for its remake? Let us know down in the comments. Before we begin, we publish new videos all week long, so be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Less action, more horror.
Are you okay?
This is very much an obvious prediction to make, but it's hard to argue against it. The big problem with RE5 back in 2009 was very much the focus on action and shooting rather than being scary. It didn't necessarily make it a bad game from the get-go, but it wasn't the RE5 that we wanted. It was less survival horror and more Left 4 Dead. Forget scaring the player, let's just overwhelm them with enemies. Capcom today has seen how the fans react when they emphasize survival horror for most of the game. You get something competent, somewhat frightening, dumb in some ways but not over the top, and then you can go nuts at the very end when it's time to make your escape. It's a simple blueprint, but it's what has allowed the games to sell millions upon millions of copies with each new release. So why abandon that and repeat the same mistakes?
Suck on this, Wesker.
Your time's up, you son of a bitch.
A new setting.
Welcome to Africa. My name is Sheva Alama.
Chris Redfield.
One aspect of RE5 that had some outlets blood boiling was the number of black people you were fighting against throughout the campaign. This was because RE5 is set in West Africa, albeit a fictional region of West Africa. Said outlets would further make accusations of Capcom supposedly playing into, quote, the old cliches of the dangerous dark continent that you'd swear it was written in the 1920s, end quote. Regardless of how one may feel, Capcom has one of two options here. Either stick to their guns by keeping the game set in Africa, or change the setting by putting Chris and Sheva in a completely different corner of the world. How big of a change could this make to the lore, narrative, or justification of Sheva's place in the story is beyond us. For now, let's all cool our jets and wait to see what Capcom ends up doing.
A new era of bioterrorism descended upon vulnerable countries, shifting the balance of power throughout the region.
Wesker's new plan.
I've obtained the amber.
Excellent.
Let us assume that Capcom does go in a different direction with RE5's setting. Part of why we believe Capcom might change the setting has less to do with the outrage of certain outlets, and more of what Wesker says at the end of RE4 Remake. When Ada tries to understand how massive Wesker's plan is in terms of casualties, he states billions.
So, we're talking millions of casualties.
Billions.
Not to get literal, but according to a number of sources, the global population in 2009, the year RE5 is set in, was 6.8 billion people. The two countries that held more than a billion people were China and India. Of course, Wesker could be talking about the billions of people who will be affected by the end of his plans, but something tells us Capcom might take us to an Asian territory instead.
Yes.
Ada Wong, hero.
Lower it. FBI.
Throughout RE4 Remake, Ada is clearly playing more of a femme fatale role as well as a hired mercenary for Wesker. However, the end of the game shows she is finally setting her moral compass as she tells the pilot to turn the chopper around. Whatever she's doing, it's clearly going to put a wrench in Wesker's plans, unless he's anticipating this. Could this mean she'll have a part in RE5? Hell, is there a chance she might replace Sheva as the second player? We're not quite sure, but it's a topic we might have to revisit later down the road.
We're changing course now.
What are you buying?
Over here, stranger.
The Merchant and the Duke have been fan favorites for some time now. The mysteries between their relationship and their presence only add to the eeriness of Resident Evil. While we wouldn't want another bizarre shopkeeper forced in for the sake of having one, we'd still love to see either one of the two returning, or get a completely different shady character to sell us stuff. Besides, it's better than RE5's boring old menus to act as a store between chapters. Get some character in here, man.
What's that? How have we procured these curiosities? You don't want to know, mate.
A Missing Valentine.
I would expect you to be happier to see us. Us. So slow to catch on.
Jill's involvement in Wesker's plans felt very forced, and it led to a boss fight we all could have gone through life without experiencing. It simply didn't make sense, and she doesn't even show up after the fight against her and Wesker. She's just there. We're willing to bet that if Capcom is going to make cuts like they have done in the remakes for RE3 and RE4, there's a huge chance that Jill is first on the chopping block. Look, we love her too, but the story has to make some sense. Otherwise, we're just going to relive 2009.
Jill! Are you alright?
Chris.
Worst villain ever.
Won't you two just die already? You're making me look bad!
Speaking of characters getting the axe, Irving Turner. This guy sucks. Why did we get a human version of the weasels from Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Really, did any of you ask for this? Whoever asked for this guy, fess up.
Dying's not so bad, but it's not gonna change anything. You're still screwed!
We're wasting time here.
A true femme fatale.
Mr. Redfield, how nice to finally make your acquaintance.
Who the hell are you?
Excella. She works with Tricep.
Nice. You've done your homework.
Yes, lose Irving Turner, but keep Excella Gioni. We know that sounds like a weird thing, but Excella did have potential to be a sort of vehicle to carry out Wesker's plans in the event of his death. There were a few times where we saw how manipulative Excella could be, how cunning she could be, and her lust for power matches Wesker's whole shtick. We can agree that her death made sense, and yes, we know this whole suggestion was basically done in Revelations 2 with Wesker's sister. But the thing is that the way Excella was just introduced and quickly thrown away in RE5, it was kind of befuddling.
Albert!
The hell?
Farewell, old friend.
Alone again.
I need backup! There's too many of them!
RE5's saving grace back in 2009 and to this day was the co-op functionality. However, the Resident Evil games in recent years have basically neglected any hint of co-op unless it was to compete with other players. Something tells us Capcom is going to do away with it entirely in Resident Evil 5's remake. The publisher sees that when you keep things focused and not allow feature creep to set in, Resident Evil can deliver a strong experience. Why ruin it when you can create two strong campaigns, one for Chris and another for Sheva, or whoever ends up taking her place? Perhaps save the co-op for Mercenaries mode. Keep the boulder! Get rid of Jill's place in the story. Please, for the love of God, get rid of Irving Turner. But the one thing, Capcom, that you should not get rid of is the boulder punching. That's right. Yes, I know, so many people dunked on that moment back when RE5 first launched, and rightfully so. However, it reaches the same level of cheesiness and stupidity as Leon suplexing villagers, or Barry dubbing Jill as the master of unlocking. So long as we get to see Chris straight up punch a rock in some way, shape, or form, we'll be happy. Did you enjoy this video? Check out some of our other videos on Resident Evil, and be sure to subscribe for more great stuff every day.